Hey, I'm Shay Warner, and you are listening to Casual Cattle Conversations. If you are ready to explore different management practices and focus on improving your operation and the beef industry, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited you are listening. Hey folks, it's Shay here, and welcome back to another episode. I'm excited you're here. If you're a first-time listener, welcome. If you're a return listener, thanks for coming back. Today, we are talking about training ranch employees, improving communication, and some different ways to do that. So we are visiting with Erin McKnight, and she is a Canadian rancher who, alongside her husband and their boys, has experienced the realities of training employees, whether they come from a ranching background or they do not. And what's really interesting is she took their experiences, recognized the need for improving communication, empowering employees to be able to handle tasks independently, and she created Ranch Academy. And that is a program that all ranchers can use to help train their employees, whether it's something as simple as how to load a grease gun to how to troubleshoot this water issue. So we're going to visit with Erin, and she's going to explain a lot more about what is happening within that program. Now, I do want to remind you the best way to support this podcast and other podcasts is to leave a rating and review on your favorite listening app. If you have any topic suggestions, head to my website and let me know. But with that, let's visit with Erin. Alrighty, folks, let's take a moment to hear from one of our sponsors. At Westway Feed Products, we believe in the best way to raise beef. Our molasses-based liquid feed provides essential protein, energy, and nutrients to keep your cattle healthy and productive. It's an efficient and effective solution that saves you time and labor working with your existing forages and feed. Learn more about why Westway is the best way to raise beef at www.westwayfeed.com. 17. That's 800-800-7517. And that link is also in the show notes. All right. Well, Erin, it is a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. And I am really excited to visit and learn more about your story and Ranch Academy. You are one of those people that I've been following on Instagram for quite a while, I think. And so it's fun to have you on here on another platform. And I'm excited to get to know you and what you've created a little bit better. So to start off, since most of us listening are ranchers as well, do you want to talk a little bit about where you're from and what you do today?
Yeah. My husband and I live in the Sandhills in southwest Saskatchewan, Canada. We ranch here. We have a commercial cow-calf herd. We have two young boys that help us out, our kids. And then we have some employees that also work with us here. Operate about 30,000 acres of ranch land. Some of that is tame grass. A lot of it is native sandhills, which are really rough, choppy, if you will, and then some farmland as well.
Sounds like you have plenty to keep you busy there. So let's talk a little bit about Ranch Academy, and that is a program you created, correct?
Yeah. So Ranch Academy is an online program. It started out as something that I would have our hired help go through while they were working for us or before they came to work for us. It is a resource of like a whole bunch of online tutorials and some downloadable resources that they can look at, some orientation type of stuff, some safety things, just so that I know that they have seen it before, but I don't have to go through, we don't have to go to the shop and go through every piece of equipment and do all of that one-on-one because that's quite time consuming. So yeah, and it's really special because it's on your phone. So while someone's out in the field, if they come across something, they can reference it right then and there. There is, everything from your drug administration. I've tailored it to my own drugs that we use on the ranch and like the dosages, and so they can look that sort of stuff up. They can troubleshoot when a water well goes down. They can look into where to start looking and how to test some certain things, just to give them some more answers before they throw up their hands and say, I don't know how to fix this. We live an hour from the nearest town. So doing a lot of this stuff ourselves is super important. And it has been a game changer in like my husband and I are able to leave, whether that is for business or family stuff, and not always just get called back. It used to be that we would go to a family function. We'd be 3 hours away at Thanksgiving and we'd get a phone call, well, the power's out at this well. And you're on the phone trying to like troubleshoot it, or you're like, you know what, I have to go home. Sorry, guys.
Mhm.
So now it enables whoever's there in place of us just a little bit more troubleshooting to solve the stuff without us having to be like directly uh, involved in all of the decisions.
It frees up some of your time and some of the babysitting that sometimes comes with new employees, is what it sounds like to me.
Absolutely. Like it's one thing to have somebody on your team that is just an extension of you and an extra set of hands. They go where you go and there's two people working on every job, but it is really been freeing for us to have team members that feel confident that they can, go into a job on their own. So we can be working on something and they can be working on something totally different. Frees up so much of our time and honestly gets so much more done.
I'm sure. So, do you want to talk a little bit about, what really was there a specific moment that inspired you to create this program? Was like, can you share a little bit about that? Because, first of all, finding help is challenging and training them is challenging in and of itself. So, what was kind of that key inspiration for, what, we need to do something different and create something to empower our future employees?
There are lots of instances. Basically, every time I would be like, oh my God, I can't believe that I thought that somebody should have known how to do that. And I mean, it can be something so small, but I thought that they knew, I just assumed that they knew how to do that thing. And because they didn't, now we have this chaos because of the untrained piece of the help. I am now, a day behind. And so every time I'd come to a crossroads of something like that, I'd be like, I got to remember to teach everyone this piece. For instance, I have like 100 instances, but the one that comes to mind right now is, moving pairs. So we had a whole bunch of heifers, not a whole bunch. We had like 30 heifers at our 1 yard. We have 2 yards and they're 2 miles apart. So I had a bunch of heifers and I wanted the ones that had already calved out. They were happily paired up. I needed to move them to the other yard. And so I was like, can you haul with a truck and trailer these pairs to the other yard? Yes, got it. I go off doing something else and I come back and I'm like, what is going on here? This like total chaos. And this person had hauled moms and was going to come back and haul the babies instead of hauling them together, gated in pairs. They were young heifer pairs. Of course, they needed to show up there together and be put in a pen and mother up. So he'd hauled some cows there, and they beat him back because they were coming for their babies. And everything was mismothered, and it took me a day and a half to figure out who belonged to who and where they all needed to go. You would think that, that's like something as you grow up in ranching, you know that that's how it has to happen, but it's not necessarily common, especially when you're not hiring another rancher to work for you. You're hiring somebody who maybe has a background in agriculture, but it might be a different background in agriculture than the way a farm and ranch works. That little things like that is what's been like, oh my God, I need something so that I know what they know.
Well, and even if you are hiring someone who grew up on a ranch, every farm does things differently. The environment's different, the setup's different, and that impacts how they handle situations like that too. And so I think that's really important that you are creating that communication piece and recognizing that that's a barrier that needs to be solved and just providing a solution. So I want to know a little bit more about some of the topics within Ranch Academy. So is it, you talked about troubleshooting, like, if you lose power at a well, but does it even go down to even some like the simpler topics like how to fill a grease gun or some equipment stuff? I mean, what's the range that you are covering? Because what you'd need to maybe tell someone who's not from a ranch compared to those who have grew up on it is a little different.
Absolutely. I should have had my outline in front of me. And part of the problem is it just keeps getting bigger because there's just so much stuff. There's module on like I call it general knowledge or whatever. So like that literally is like how to change a grease gun, how to find your land location when you're in the middle of nowhere on your phone, how to there's a safety section on like power tools, chainsaws, all that sort of stuff. And then there is a water section, so that's like what to look for when you're checking water. You're also checking animals, how to troubleshoot it, how to blow out shallow water lines, how to deal with cold weather, freezing water temperatures when the power goes out. There is a section on hauling animals, and it's not so complex that it's not the same program you would take if you were going to commercially haul cattle, but it gives you the cliff notes and the need to know points of closing closing partitions in your trailer, how to know what trailer to use to haul what animals, backing up your trailer, just all the things that go with transport. There's even so it's transport and it goes with cattle hauling or livestock hauling, and then it also does how to tie down your load on a flat deck properly. What are the main points you need to know? And it's all very concise. The whole idea is that nobody wants to watch a YouTube video where they have to like hit fast forward and fast forward to try to find that little snippet of information that they actually want. All the videos are very concise, and they're just the little snippets of information that you want and you need. There's no fluff.
Hey folks, are you looking to achieve more with your ranch in 2025? Introducing Move the Ranch Forward, a goal-setting guide designed specifically for ranchers. This practical PDF helps you set meaningful goals, create actionable plans, and stay on track even when the unexpected happens, which we know is often in ranching. It includes templates, strategies, and prioritization cheat sheets to make sure you're always moving forward. Ready to make real progress on your ranch? Download Move the Ranch Forward today at casualcattleconversations.com, and that link is in the show notes. So you mentioned earlier that you customize it, especially on like the animal health side to your operation. Is that possible for other operations to be able to customize it for themselves too?
Yeah. Yeah. So there is a livestock section and it goes through some calving stuff and all that. And in it is like any of the pieces that I've customized. So like I have a spreadsheet with dosages for medication. And so what somebody who purchases the Ranch Academy and wants to go through it themselves gets is they get a link to an editable version for themselves. So they have to take that, and there's a lot of warnings on it. Like, don't just take my information and feel like it's true for you, but take this spreadsheet and now go through it for your operation. Anytime in a module that it's like, this is what I do geographically, this is who I'm going to call if the power goes out. Your homework is to find out who you would call in this situation and record it in this area or whatnot. So anything that is specific to me, I've been careful to encourage people to find out what the truth for them is and to make note of it.
So is this something that, you've definitely created it for employees, but are you seeing people use it even for their kids too?
Absolutely. Young kids, young adults even, or people who are new to the ranch, partners that have moved to the ranch, or somebody who wants to. I had a high school kid who just really had an agriculture background. I'd always worked with some family member or something, had never grew up on a farm, but he really wanted to go and work in a ranching situation. He took it. You don't have to be an employee to take the good out of the course for sure.
Is there anything else that you feel is really important to know about Ranch Academy that you want to share?
It really just comes down to like, we've been there, we've done that, we've hit our head against a wall, and we've found our way, probably the hard way, the long way to the solution. And so I just I want to be able to give those solutions or that train, not the framework, but the roadmap to finding your own solutions, because it is so frustrating to spend days and days or hours upon hours on a solution that's could be right in front of you.
And, you know, one thing that changed my perspective about having employees, well, a couple things. I didn't grow up on an operation where we had any employees. It was just mom, dad, my sister, and I, grandma and grandpa, right? And so training was just always baptism by fire. We went with mom and dad everywhere. But there were still things that when I came home from college in the summer to work, dad was like, "What do you mean you don't know how to do this?" I'm like, "Well, you always had Casey do that." So I never did that. So there are little things there that sometimes just get missed, even with kids who grow up on the ranch and have been a part of it too. But now I'm on an operation where we have employees, and we have employees who have been farming and ranching their whole lives, and some that grew up in the city, and we've had to completely train, and there's pros and cons to each of those. But the reality of it is good communication with employees is risk management, just like you'd be doing risk management with markets, insurance, anything like that. And I talked about that on one of my Rancher Mind calls. Actually, a couple of them, we talked about it, and it's just important. You need that help and that labor. So being able to communicate and train, it's good risk management and can prevent a lot of mishaps like you've outlined earlier.
Absolutely. I heard this the other day. Unspoken expectations are just premeditated resentments. And I loved it. I was like, yeah, every time you don't clearly communicate what your expectation for the situation is, and something goes wrong, you can resent somebody for not doing it wrong, but also you have to look inward, like, what did I do wrong? Oh, I didn't tell them. I did not show them what to do. That was on me, right? Because you can't expect anyone to know what to do in all of these situations. Nothing happens the same way twice in ranching. Not ever. It happens similar maybe, but never the same way. And so yeah, clear communication. I was an RN for 10 years, and my whole first year of nursing college was about communication. And during that time, I was like, what is this? This is stupid. I want to quit. I hate this. And then I became a nurse, and I worked in an emergency room. And it is the most important thing in the entire world. Like, being able to clearly communicate with your teammates about everything it builds trust. And by building trust, you can grow your operation. If you trust your employees, if they're talking to you back and forth, if you're talking to them and telling them what you actually need and expect of them, it's going to do wonders. It's the best thing in the world.
Absolutely. Well, Erin, where can people go to find more information about Ranch Academy?
They can find me on Instagram, and they can find the Ranch Academy on Instagram. And then they can find the Ranch Academy on the internet. It's actually at mcknightranch.ca. And then there's /Ranch Academy, or you can just click through to find it. So, yeah.
Well, awesome. I'll be sure to include that in the show notes. And thank you for joining me for this conversation today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And that's a wrap on that one, folks. Thank you for tuning into Casual Cattle Conversations. If you want more information about Ranch Academy, Rancher Minds, Move Your Ranch Forward, or anything we talked about in this episode today, there's a full set of links in the show notes. So go check them out. Happy ranching.